Okay, Ashley.
Sure, I think we're ready whenever you are.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. We will be calling the thank you. I will put the mic on. Good afternoon, everyone. Calling the Technical Advisory Committee to order. Sorry, a few minutes late. It was such an exciting event beforehand with food and drinks, and so my apologies. As always, we will start with introductions, and I will start to my left here.
Tony Bertolero, City of Sebastopol. Harry Bulger, City of Guilford. Ashley Potter.
Can you turn your microphones on, please?
Make sure the lights are green.
There we go. Okay. Ashley Cotter, City of Sonoma.
Craig Scott, City of Cotati.
Mike Berger, City of Sonoma.
Hunter McLaughlin, Sonoma County Public Infrastructure.
Chris Barney, SCTCA.
Joanne Parker, Smart.
Brendan Barrett, Town of Windsor.
Rob Sprinkle, City Santa Rosa.
Bjorn Griepenberg, Petaluma.
Jason San Pietro, City of Roanoke Park.
Edie Takata, City of Roanoke Park.
Derek Montani, City of Cloverdale.
Dave Ripper to SCTCA.
Shauna Gaz, SCTCA.
And in the back of the room,
Adam Garcia, SCTCA.
Ross Clendenin, SCTCA.
Dawn Gooch, SCTCA.
thanks, everyone. And Dawn, do we have anyone from the public online?
Yes, we do.
Are there, if anyone, this is an opportunity for public comment, so if anyone would like to speak, raise your hand or just shout out. Seeing none, we will move on to item 3, approval of the meeting minutes from September 25th. Does anyone have any changes or comments?
I'll abstain. Craig.
You'll abstain? All right, with nothing else, approval of meeting minutes. On to item 4, the Regional Transit Oriented Community Policy Update.
That's going to be me today, and we have kind of some late breaking news. So there have been a lot of changes on this over the last couple of weeks. I'll be providing an update on where things are headed for the Transit Oriented Communities Policy. So I'll be sharing a few slides from a workshop agenda that's being reviewed by the MTC commissioners over the last couple of days on the new proposal for the TOC policy. So, you know, it's covering quite a few different items and changes, including policy scoring, the different categories, a new proposal associated with OBAG funding. And, you know, overall, they're recommending a more incentive-based approach for TOC implementation, providing more time and flexibility. So they've pushed out some of the dates a little bit. They want to make it easier to hit that middle band and to access OBAG 4 funding. So I'll be going through a few of the details that are changing right now. So I do want to say that this is all being reviewed by the commissioners right now. So any changes will be adopted in early 2026. But just wanted to give you an idea of where things are headed. MTC ABAG staff attended our planning advisory committee last week and kind of talked in more detail about the specific planning policies associated with TOC policy and how those are changing and shifting as well. So they're in the loop as well. But yeah, quite a few things in motion associated with this policy right now. So just a quick refresher on kind of how scoring works out at a jurisdiction level. So the initial proposal was to have 4 different areas. These are policy areas associated with, you know, improving transportation and development in transit-oriented areas. So in Sonoma County, this applies to smart station areas. So there are 4 different categories in the scoring rubric, including density, parking, housing, and station access. All of the planners are very familiar with all of these categories and the different scoring associated with that. And the original score sheet was a score range from 1 to 100 points, or I guess 0 to 100 points. So you can see an example of how that could break down for this hypothetical Bay City example here. This city was able to check the box in certain policy areas and get 50 points, which is kind of in the midpoint range. And we're seeing that chart, right? Okay, so this may look familiar. This is kind of the original proposal that MTC was rolling out on, how the TOC policy would play out. They're proposing a bell curve with 3 different access levels. One, if you have very low TOC scoring, the only OBAG 4 funding that you'd be eligible for was funding to help you get up to that kind of midpoint level. The level 2 access would be eligible for all funding, and then there'd be a expanded access kind of bonus section if you're scoring really high to be eligible for all funding, and then a set aside amount of funding as well. So this is how initial scores have kind of played out across the Bay Area. So MTC has worked closely with local planning agencies to do some initial scoring. This is all draft at this point, but you can kind of see how things play out. Up in Sonoma County, we have a couple of jurisdictions that are scoring in that high category, a lot in the middle, in that yellow category, and only one in the low category based on this initial pass of scoring.
Quick question, Chris,
Yeah.
the size of the bubbles, that's the size of the city?
That is population based,
Okay.
yeah. So the colors are, where they're falling in that scoring range, and the dot size is population. So this is how MTC is proposing that things change. So you'll notice another bell curve on the right side. So what they're proposing now is pivoting to a more incentive-based approach. So having no one cut off at the bottom. So everyone would be eligible for OBAG 4 funding, but they're proposing phasing in some sort of set aside by 2028. They're also proposing incentivizing TOC compliance by including scoring as part of the county level program. So we're still figuring out how that would play out. David's aware of the proposed changes. So, once this is finalized, there'll need to be some adjustments to scoring for OBAG projects. You can see the initial proposal here based on the different scores. So they've dropped that high level down a little bit. And also they're giving partial credit for jurisdictions that aren't in TOC areas. So Sonoma and Sebastopol, which are outside of the TOC area, you'd receive scores as part of the scoring rubric in this recommendation for the county program. So still undetermined how that would play out in Sonoma County, but this is the recommendation and current proposal from MTC. One big change as well is allowing full points for work in progress policies. So originally, planning departments and jurisdictions had to have actual policies in place and adopted in their jurisdictions to get points or check off those different boxes on the score sheets. So now MTC is allowing more flexibility. If you're showing progress, working on it, and have a timeline in place, you can get full points for those different policy approaches. So an example here from a jurisdiction would be, getting full points for policies you have in place, and they're calling out this condo conversion ordinance that is in progress. You could score full points for that as well if you're working. So again, a lot of changes. We'll be watching this and passing information along as it's adopted and it moves forward. But just to summarize, MTC is proposing an incentive-based approach. So they've, they want to make this, they don't want to block anyone out of the OBAG 4 funding. They've listened to comments related to that. They're providing more time and flexibility for implementation. They're making it easier to hit the middle and higher TOC bands by allowing for full points for in-progress policies. And they've been providing technical assistance to jurisdictions to help work on some of that policy work as well. So as far as timeline goes, these changes are being reviewed by the commissioners this week. We're expecting adoption sometimes in 2026 before an OBAG 4 call-up projects. And then the TOC set aside for full compliance is expected to be phased in sometime in 2028. So things have been pushed out as far as that goes too. But yeah, since this is such a big change, we wanted to get you some information. The full packets for those commission workshops are available on the MTC website if you really want to dig in to some of the details. But just wanted to provide kind of a high level look at what's going on. We'll be talking to the planners as well, so they're aware of these new updates as well. But just wanted to provide this information from awareness. I can try and answer some questions. I may know a little bit, but happy to write them down if I don't have an immediate answer and check in with MPC staff on what's going on.
So for sure, the OBAG 4 call for projects is gonna be pushed out.
They're saying 2026. So I think that's roughly in schedule. The thing that's really getting pushed out is, that incentive funding and, requiring compliance with the TOC policy strictly.
Okay, thanks.
There's been a lot of debate between MTC and the Bay Area County Transportation Authorities about how much will go into that incentive program. That has impacts on our local program that we use for our OBAG 4 projects that go into the SCTCA funding program, and whether or not it's a big set aside, a little set aside, that affects how much money we have locally for your local projects. So we've been pushing back hard on that, and we're trying to get MPC to some kind of compromise here, but we anticipate hopefully they'll still have the OBAG 4 call for projects in spring 2026.
Anyone else? Thank you. I very much appreciate the update and relatively good news, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It'll be easier.
All right, moving on to item 5, comprehensive transportation plan outreach engagement summary.
Wow.
Oh, sounds good. And I can share it.
Got it?
Good afternoon. Fire up my presentation. So I'm Ross Clendenin, Community Engagement Officer, the title with SCTCA, and give a sure I got the right one. This will be correct. So disregard the CAC notice here, but so public engagement is a key part of the Sonoma County Comprehensive Transportation Plan. We really wanted to be sure that the plan reflected the diverse transportation needs and priorities in Sonoma County. The outreach process was designed to be inclusive, equitable, and responsive, with a focus on reaching some historically underrepresented communities and seeking feedback from all areas geographically as well in Sonoma County. So goals and guiding principles, these goals align with, and you guys can see that. Okay, good. With the broader perspectives of the community-based transportation planning program, the CBTP, as well as the CTP's vision for a more connected, more equitable, and sustainable transportation system. As for the strategy, a big part of it was building on what we already had. So this update truly being an update to the CTP, we're building on a lot of outreach that was done for the previous version of the plan, but a lot has changed since the last time we did it, as you know. So we wanted to capture that. We used basically a phased multimodal approach that emphasized listening, collaboration, and transparency. And outreach fatigue is mentioned here. That is a big one. And so that's, some of that is honestly coordinating with our own efforts to make sure that we're not going out as well as many of our partners, because there's so many simultaneous outreach efforts happening and really convincing people that, this is worthwhile, and really explaining how it affects things all the way down to like the SCTCA funding program, and, just affecting the overall priorities of the agency and getting funds to people's communities, which is what they care about the most. So target audiences. Outreach efforts were tailored to engage a wide range of stakeholders. Kind of see the list here. A big part of it was a bilingual survey online. And just to comment a little bit, this is an interesting time to do engagement, a difficult time in some ways. And so I think the biggest asset we had were some of the CBOs that we worked with. In particular, Latino service providers and La Familia Sana in the North County. Really trying to get some, Spanish language responses from people who that's their primary language. There was a lot of pushback for just having big events. There's a lot of hesitation to show up right now, a lot of fear in the community. So we partnered with La Familia Sana and ended up kind of designing a method that was a little more anonymous. It was incentivized, but we ended up getting about 35 responses from their members right there. And they were fully in depth, but people didn't have to go somewhere that made them fearful and uncomfortable. And that's just the reality of what we're dealing with right now, engagement wise. So outreach tools and tactics. It wasn't just me at the tent wearing the same outfit I'm wearing today, apparently. Although, it happens. But
It's a uniform, isn't it?
I mean, hey, you've seen James, right? It's the same thing every day. But basically we, meetings, workshops, everything from farmers markets to like the Fix It Fair events out in West County. I'm just trying to find some opportunities to get out there. I will say we were successful in getting out many times, multiple times in each jurisdiction of the county. And also, partner amplification was huge. So thank you for folks who helped share that. Social media, of course, our own e-blasts, newsletters, and then we did kick it off with a presentation on the plan. And the timeline, as you can see, it was a 4-phase timeline, past review of all the previous planning efforts. Phase 2 was partnering with CBOs, the events as were just mentioned, and kind of also utilizing some community gatherings. There was a music festival in Roanoke Park that was pretty interesting. It was its first year. Yeah, that was an interesting one. But we did get some good response there. And so the next phases we're looking at will be focused on sharing the draft CTP as it gets out there, gathering some more feedback through a workshop. I believe we're going to do kind of an open house style event here where people can really get as in-depth as they want. We'll be sort of spread out and looking to answer all those questions. And then finally, phase 4, we'll be looking for board approval, and then we will roll that out to the public in a bilingual form. And so just a little taste of some of the key findings you'll see that we got, kind of the main themes. Strong support for safer, more connected infrastructure for walking, biking, public transit. Many folks really do want alternatives to driving that reduces traffic and their environmental impact. Interest in EVs is growing. Concerns remain about cost, access, and sustainability. Participants also highlighted challenges like long transit routes, limited rural service, and safety for non-drivers. A lot of folks are really curious about active transportation. Many have a lot of fear, and so I think there's, I know I'm a communications person, but messaging is a big part of making folks more comfortable and showing some of the recent improvements that they can take advantage of. So just a sample of one question. This was the EV adoption. I think the big thing here is incentives. Many folks want to try that, but financial incentives are a big part, and then access to charging stations, particularly for non-property owners. That's a big one. Some interest in e-bikes, certainly. You know, there's some people are comfortable with those, some aren't. I will say there was a lot of feedback from Santa Rosa Junior College. We did a outreach event at SRJC, and they had their Clipper Bay Pass program, which was kind of a pilot program where they had gotten some reduced, and I think in some cases free transit cards, and there was a big push to kind of reinstate that. We did try to address that with MTC that had run that pilot program. I don't know that we're going to be able to bring it back, but we did get a lot of feedback from the JC. So that's, you know, students, particularly lower income students, transportation is a huge factor and really kind of determines what they're able to do. Another question, just reducing car use overall, making the choice to drive less. Top suggestions were more frequent transit, extended hours, extended routes, free or discounted passes, as I mentioned, and then just better infrastructure and shuttles to and from transit connections. And that will kind of reference the next slide, which is equity in transportation. So we heard a lot about sort of geographical equity, West County, Sonoma Valley. We have a lot of folks that, you know, hear about some of the great things that have been happening along the 101 corridor, like SMART, like the Mascots program, things like that are really improving transportation there. But getting east to west is still a big concern. So that's something that came up. Demographics overview, strong participation from older and younger residents, kind of interesting there. Mix of employment status, income levels was a little bit on the lower side overall compared to the Sonoma County median, so under 50,000 was the largest. Work and commuting, a mix of working outside and definitely some telecommuting as well. And geographic outreach, widest responses from Sebastopol, Santa Rosa, and Petaluma. Not totally surprising. And then one question that came up last time we presented this, and we wanted to add a slide, was just how this is all going to get integrated you know, into the final CTP. And I think you'll see here it's going to guide development of the final plan, as well as the scoring criteria for the SCTCA funding program. And since this is a limited update, you know, building on the previous CTP, public input is going to be used to make sure the goals are still relevant and the priorities that we're pushing are still the main priorities. And sorry if that's covering up the bottom one there. Yeah, so I think it's really, in many ways, it's a confirmation of our priorities and really does directly affect the SCTCA funding program, which we're in the middle of currently. So next steps, we'll be sharing it for public review and input, getting our committee feedback, advisory group feedback, and then releasing it digitally, bilingually with limited printed copies. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions on the process.
Any questions?
You guys just want to see the draft, I know.
Well, thanks for the presentation, and I'm assuming we don't have any online either, but appreciate your time, Ross.
Thank you very much.
There are no online comments. Of question.
On to item 6, measures M and Go Sonoma, 6.1 invoice obligation status informational item.
Yes, sir.
So you can take a look at it in your packet. And then 6.2, Sonoma Citywide Safety Bicycle and Pedestrian Improvement Project, a proposed major scope change.
So last month, we brought you the airport boulevard major scope change, and so you kind of have an idea of what this is about. We changed the policy in, or we revised the policy in the strategic implementation plan to address what happens if a competitive project comes in and we evaluate it, it gets awarded funding, and then there's a scope change. What happens? How do we deal with that? So the policy establishes that after staff reviews it, after information is presented by the project sponsor, staff will evaluate it. It comes to if it's a major scope change, it comes to the TAC and it goes to the CAC, and then it goes, and then those two, and then it goes to the board. And any comments, questions that are brought up at the two committees will also be presented to the board. So we got our second scope change request, and that is for the city of Sonoma. City of Sonoma originally submitted one application for the last cycle of our funding program. And it was bicycle and pedestrian, it was various bicycle and pedestrian improvements around the city. With not a lot of definition, but a number of different locations where the improvements could happen. Then staff subsequently finalized what they thought was finalized, the locations where they were going to make those improvements. And then some time has gone by, and now based on public engagement that they have done, there has been a number of concerns that were brought up about one of the locations. So they are proposing a new one of the locations be changed, and some of the other locations that were proposed will be bid alternatives. So with that, and I can summarize more heavily. I did, it is included in your agenda packet. Essentially, I would say that the intent had been to build a bike path that was to terminate at a school. It was a safe routes to school type of project. But when city staff took it to the city school board, there were a number of concerns brought up. They didn't like that the bike path or the pedestrian path terminated at the school. They thought that was problematic. They had issues with where exactly the bike path terminated, right where the preschool was. There was a grassroots effort to try to figure out where a better bike path would be, and that was proposed for a location that city doesn't even own. It was on an existing path that's sort of called a desire path, I think. And so it's a well-worn footpath, but it's on Sonoma County Water Agency land and private property. So that's not really going to work, but that was sort of the impetus that drove the city staff to find yet a better location for where they would put these improvements. They are now proposing a number of improvements along 3rd Street that would provide a bike boulevard type of facility. So SCTCA staff has reviewed this major scope change, and we are supporting it. So with that, I would hand it over to you all to ask any questions. And of course, city staff are here to answer questions as well.
No questions?
How about the cost implications?
So the original estimate when we got our 50% design, it was about 766,000 for the project total, including the or 766,000 for the path. It's about 814,000 for the bike boulevard. So it's about a $47,000 increase. However, we did have $30,000 for right of way, which now we don't need because it's our right of way. It's a street. And so technically with that, it's about $17,000 more to do this. But we do think it is a much better project for the community in general. A lot of people utilize 3rd Street currently to get basically from the Friar Creek bike path that terminates at West MacArthur, and then up to the Sonoma bike path, which picks up at West Main Street. You can cross and walk the path up to General Vallejo's home to access the bike path that way. So there's currently no connector to the two main bike paths in the city of Sonoma. So this would provide a very low stress alternative for bicyclists and pedestrians to utilize that. So with that, and we also received a complete street safety assessment while we were trying to find project alternatives that specifically recommended Third Street as a good bike boulevard. And so between those two factors, we think that the increase is well worth it. There's multiple traffic calming elements. So we've got painted bulb outs on 3 intersections, Betancourt Street, Andriac Street. We're reversing the stop control that's currently existing on 3rd Street West to Andriac Street to facilitate bicycle traffic on 3rd Street West unimpeded. We're adding a neighborhood traffic calming circle at Perkins Street. And we're also adding speed cushions on 3rd Street West leading up to West Napa, and I think right after West Napa as well. So a number of traffic calming improvements. And then we also have the typical bike boulevard signage, so sharrows, and then we also have edge line striping to kind of narrow the roadway. There's no traffic calming improvements on 3rd Street currently or bike facilities. Suggestions to this have also been wayfinding signs for people that are staying like in the area and they want to be able to access these trails. So tell them like this is a bike boulevard here, was recommended by the Sonoma Valley Visitors Bureau. So we're going to add that in as well. And then of course, signage for bike boulevards. So that's kind of the general elements for that.
Just
Oh.
able to bring that up.
Well, this is the design currently, and then I think slide 7 is the concept for the bike boulevard. So this hasn't been fully designed yet because the amendment hasn't been approved. So we haven't directed our project engineers to design it, but we do have a concept.
What's the speed limit on 3rd Street?
25.
And you're maintaining that. We'll see what's going on with,
So I came early.
the pre-meeting. Yeah.
Are there any major street crossings that people will have to navigate?
Well, West Napa is the big
712.
one. Yeah,
Yeah.
but that currently has a hawk on it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
there is an existing pedestrian improvement. I mean, people don't like it, but
Yeah.
it is, makes it safe, so.
And will people biking on the bike boulevard be able to access that hawk? Is there kind of an easy way to, or maybe a simple modification that would enable them to access the hawk? Because usually those are designed for pedestrians.
Yeah, the Hawk's problematic. It's right in front of St. Francis Solano. And it's reflex for people to stop when they see a pedestrian
Right.
anywhere near the round corner.
Okay.
Yeah, so before the yellow even starts blinking, the pedestrian's usually across the road. And then it goes yellow, solid yellow,
Right.
blinking red, solid red, and the drivers are sitting there confused. So we're gonna work with Caltrans on that, but that's not part of the project.
Right.
Cause it could bog down.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll let them fend for the hawk and then try to put in an RRFD and scrap all that cross arms signals.
We're not tackling any elements on Caltrans with this project. That was actually part of our selection criteria for identifying this project, is that nothing on Caltrans, because the majority of the project's already at 90% design. And we want to be able to meet our current goal of getting to construction in June of 2026. So in order to do that, we needed to make sure that, not significant amount of right of way, no Caltrans. It would be relatively easy to design, so there wouldn't be a whole lot of impediments on the design end. So we originally had a modification in here for Highway 12, but then we removed it just, for expediency.
City of Cotati completely supports the change and appreciates the flexibility incorporated in the policy to implement Go Sonoma. And this is a really good example of that flexibility in action. It's being responsive to the public input.
Anyone object? If I object, can the money go to Healdsburg? If not, I'm fully for it. We don't do this very often, but all in favor say
Aye.
aye. Anyone opposed? Hearing none, that passes. And thank you for coming with all the details and fully explaining it. It looks like a great project. Item 6.3 goes Sonoma Roads and Transit Distribution Programs.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll cover this item. So many of you have been asking when you're gonna get your first checks from Go Sonoma. We did have 4 quarters of payments for Measure M, local streets and roads, and Measure M transit programs for fiscal year 24-25, along with a final interest payment for the local streets and roads program. So Measure M, LSR, and transit have been completely spent out. You won't be getting more Measure M checks. The Go Sonoma checks, we've been having some back and forth with County Auditor Controller Office and our auditors on timing of when we do things and how things are supposed to be accrued for revenues that were received last fiscal year. And so we receive sales tax revenue 2 months in arrears from California Department of Tax and Fee Administration, making things a little tricky. But we're basically going to keep the same schedule that we've been doing historically. So you can see the table on your staff board for the revenue that we receive in May, June, July. As normal, you would receive that check in October, and et cetera. Since revenue collection for Go Sonoma started in April of last year, this first check that you'll be getting in October should be 13 months of, running you have 4 months of revenue in that check. So you have a total of 13 months worth of revenue for fiscal 25-26. Just want to give everyone a heads up that the checks will be coming out soon. There's no change in how you will be reporting your measure or Go Sonoma revenue going forward, and happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, David. Any questions? Seeing none. On to item 7, regional information update. 7.1 is also an informational item, inactive federal obligation status in the packet, unless there's anything else to speak of or questions. Sorry, just reading. On to item 8, the upcoming SCTCA board meeting of December 8th. Anything to discuss on that agenda?
Just to note that we have a lot of items on consent related to Go Sonoma cooperative agreements, the 2 scope changes that have been approved by the committee now for City of Sonoma and County of Sonoma on their Airport Warwood project. A lot of Measure M co-ops with the county as well. And we do have an appropriation request by Sebastopol for the Bodega Avenue project that the board will be taking action on. And then a number of updates on bike share, the comprehensive transportation plan that you heard earlier, our community-based transportation plans, and a few other items that we go into the board in December.
What's the update on bike share?
It's just a kind of a program status update of the current bike share program.
And how's that bike share program going?
I will defer to Steph Britt in case she wants to chime in since Dana's not in the room. How's bike share doing?
So it's less recreational ride, more you're catching up on the train.
And so it currently ends at the north end of Santa Rosa. And I'm assuming at some point there may be opportunities as a buy-in from agencies to the north, Healdsburg and Windsor, especially as SMART expands to continue that same program.
It does require sponsorship and more discussions about funding. So
Because the current program is a grant. And how long is that grant? 2-year pilot. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Anyone else have questions on the items that David just mentioned? All right, seeing none, the item 9, roundtable discussion. We have Smart in the house. Does Smart have any kind of update she would like to share with us? Nothing? It used to be a standing item, and I just thought since you were here, you may want to talk about all the money that you're getting and
Well, there's
how
that.
fabulous.
Riderships continuing to be strong. I would say when it rains, we drop a bit, but we're in the, I didn't prepare for this, Larry, but we're in the high 4,000s on an average weekday. So if you haven't been on the train.
Hard to get a seat. Let me
It's
just
hard to
say
get a
that.
seat, sorry. I think the plan is, as part of the mascots conversation, to actually expand service in April or sometime in the spring. So that will increase our service levels. We already have very robust service on the weekdays. We have pretty decent service on the weekends, but you'll probably notice the weekend service increases more. What else? Ridership's been up on the two Smart Connect shuttles. The one in Larkspur is very much connecting between the ferry and the smart train. The one at the airport is actually increasing by carrying commuters to different locations. It isn't just the airport itself to the smart station. It's starting to carry more first last mile for work trips. That's where most of the increase is coming from.
Great. Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the
No,
spot.
I'm totally trying to think if there's anything else super dramatic and exciting to share. Yes, I'm continuing to look for money, if that's what you mean. We did award the Healdsburg contract at our board, a progressive design build contract on September 17th. That contract does include an option to continue working further north of where the current terminus is at Lytton Road. So that's my next mission, and actively looking for resources to be able to execute that contract option for the next segment north.
Good.
And I believe you're recruiting a new planning manager.
And we're recruiting a new planning manager. So, but you go ahead,
Okay.
you're announcing what.
I was just gonna say, I had the pleasure of being on an interview panel to select the new the transit manager for Sonoma County Transit, and Emily Betts will be making the move over from Smart. So big loss for Smart, but good gain for the county.
Very much so.
Great. Thank you. And our other big news, Rob, how many years with City of Santa Rosa?
26.
26 years. And I must say, it has been a pleasure to work with you. I think pretty much everyone that knows you would say the same.
Yep.
And as a resident of Santa Rosa, thank you for a lot of really great work and great decisions over those 26 years. Although I can't say it's been 26 years of great decisions, maybe those first 5 or 10. I have no idea. I'm just assuming they were good. So,
Thank you.
this is your last meeting, retiring early November.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I know it's gonna be hard to follow that, but anyone else have any other updates?
Just to know that James did send out an invite for a retirement party for Rob on November 5th at Shady Oak Barrel House in downtown Santa Rosa from 5 to 7, if anyone wants to join. And ask Rob any traffic operations questions before you have last
I won't
chance.
answer them.
Before we do that, what was the date again?
Wednesday, the 5th.
Wednesday, the 5th. Got it. All right, yes.
And I just, hopefully everybody saw that I invited you, or I sent out a number of potential dates for meeting with SCTCA to discuss your applications and your current projects and what future ATP needs might be. I have heard from 8 of the 11 agencies, so that was honestly record response. Really impressive. I'm very pleased, but there's a few that I haven't heard from yet, so.
If you're one of the 3, raise your hand.
Silverdale and Windsor, and who else? One other one. Anyway.
And
Yes, we went out to bid for our Bodega Avenue Phase 2 project, so we're really excited about that, and the climate's good. So we're happy to hear that, so we may be talking to you about a scope thing. Anyway, not here, but I'm just saying that the low bidder, well, the apparent low bidder, we're still reviewing the bids, is Team Water. And And I think, I know, the engineer's estimate was somewhere around around $2 million to put to, and the parallel bidder was about 1.5 million. So, yeah, that kind of squares us, right? So how that structures, but anyway, it's a big firm team, a lot of. The other good news about it is I know the last time we came in here to present that project, I know the bicycle coalition was a little disappointed, to say, about that section that's right across the cemetery that's narrow because we could not widen it for the bike lane because of the development that's occurring. Well, the good news is that development is going to be moving forward with widening the Bodega Avenue. So that's the good news. The complicated news is that we have to coordinate, obviously, with their contractor and our contractor, as we're both, trying to do the work here. But I think hopefully they're gonna get out ahead of us. Things are working nicely in that area. That's good.
What were your second and third bidders?
The second was Majoro and Gelati, and I believe third was Argonaut.
No, like dollar value.
I don't.
Because to say if it's an engineering
No,
design issue or if it was a contractor issue.
I think it was, I think on the second and the third, they were close.
They were close to the low bidder.
Yeah, they
Oh,
were
well.
close. So that was the good news. I know that when we first did the estimate, it was probably over a year ago. And so the bid climate has just been looking better. We even had another project that go out. And the low bidder was also about 30% less than our engineer's estimate. So hopefully things are looking up. I don't know why. We were expecting it to be higher for the like that, but so far it's been looking good. And I think maybe it's also this time of the year, as this is a good time to go out to bid. A lot of times we go out in April, and that's never a good time. Yeah. So anyway, so it's encouraging.
Good. Anyone else?
Can I add one thing? Sorry, it just occurred to me that you all may not be aware of this. Two things. One, since we arrived in Windsor, now for the first time ever, there is a North Sonoma County bus connection direct to SMART. So tell all your friends, avail yourself of it. It's, just a short trip on the sidewalk from our train station in Windsor to the bus stop, and the Route 60 does serve it. It didn't do that at Sonoma County Airport, so that created a lot of disconnects. So the network we're all trying to build out perfectly has a transformative change moment that just needs some service level tweaking. And the other thing that's worth everybody knowing.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't quite follow that. So from the Windsor Smart Station, you get on
The 60.
the 60.
The
Okay,
60
thank you.
did not serve any smart station. Now it does. So there's a
Gotcha.
cross the
Alright.
sidewalk connection. And I myself didn't actually realize that until a school district called me and tried to help map out a free smart field trip using the Sonoma County bus to get to smart. And then I went, oh, duh. Yeah, it's a brand new thing that just happened. The second thing that's worth noting is something that we've talked about publicly, but also internally, which is that our stations have performed however they were originally planned to perform in ridership levels, higher, lower, different, whatever it was. Petaluma was always our shining star. And then we added in Petaluma North and Windsor. And particularly, I think, because of the Windsor edition. And as we continue north, one of the things we've always said that we thought would happen is that Santa Rosa would start performing more like it was originally expected to perform. And that has been the case. So it's now our top ridership station. So just for the good of the order for everybody to understand.
Good info.
Stuff happens just the way you predicted it.
Take credit.
Okay.
Anything else?
Margin of error,
Just to add, Margot alluded to this at our last meeting, but we will be issuing the RFP for the fiscal year 24 Safe Streets and Roads for All demonstration project tomorrow, hopefully. That includes demonstration projects in the cities of Petaluma, Cotati, Roanoke Park, Santa Rosa, and the town of Windsor. So we'll be following up with those agencies on local funding agreements for that project, but glad that we were able to get a grant agreement signed with the Trump administration back in September after we had to sue them to get rid of some language that was not and it combines with state law. So I'm glad to have that $4.5 million project moving forward. And then I know City of Sonoma got the invite, but tomorrow we're having a ribbon cutting ceremony for the State Route 116-121 roundabout out south of Sonoma, and that'll be at 10 a.m. at the new park and ride lot.
Thank you. All right, going once, adjourned.
What day are you? George.
Still left open, hold on.
Are you done looking forward to it?